Hi, John. How are you?
Good, good. I feel like we were just together last night, weren't we?
Yes, it wasn't that long ago. Can I ask you about Orlando? It seems to be a team that has found its footing after a rocky start to the season where it had to divide its attentions with the Champions Cup and league play. Are you seeing the team, Orlando, getting more back to where you'd expect it to be?
Yeah, without a doubt. You've seen the return of their key players and obviously the match schedule becoming lighter for them. I think with any team, and you've seen that with New England coming to Toronto, that week of preparation when teams have just been in that cycle of game after game and they get that week to breathe and reset and come back to some of their habits tactically, makes a big difference. And I think one of the biggest changes I've seen is key players have came back into the starting lineup, so they're starting to get consistency in their core. And when you get consistency in your core, you know at home with the fans behind you, you've got a big opportunity to put on consistent performances. So this is a tough test for us. Our last win there was 2019, so good opportunity, but a tough test.
Thank you.
We'll go next to John.
Thanks, Nick. Hi, John. Thanks for doing this. Just to kind of follow up on that, from a tactical perspective, what are you expecting from Oscar Pereira's side?
Yeah, a lot of consistency. He's been playing against back five teams in Montreal and DC the last two matches, so he's coming in with probably a very clear blueprint in how to operate against back five teams. His team will be well versed in that. And again, with the consistency now he's bringing to his lineup, you'll get the Oscar style of player, which is an expansive style. I think they're brilliant in the counter press. And as you know, at home they'll look to dominate the ball and pick you apart with their quality. So it'll be a tough match for us if defensively we can come back to where we were at in Cincinnati or New England with those resolute performances. It's going to be really important. That's the starting point for Toronto FC.
We'll go next to James.
Thanks, Nick. Hey, John. Does having a free-scoring game like you guys had last night against Simcoe do anything for the side? And what do you want the guys to take from that experience?
I think, to enjoy a cup football, it's different. There's a different feel to it. It's all Canadian. You're going into it, as an overdog, which, in MLS, there aren't many teams. You really go into those games with that sort of feeling or that expectation. So I think having that, one, taking the responsibility for the performance last night, where they knew they had to score and there was an expectation to score lots of goals, was actually quite refreshing. But I think the most important thing last night was, people getting opportunity, players that hadn't been able to contribute as much as they wanted to take those moments, and it just brings a new energy to the group. Players that haven't been playing got a chance to play, and whenever that happens, the group feels more connected. So you bring that connection into this match against Orlando. People are upbeat, they're feeling strong and together, and we're going to need that in what will be a really tough place to go and get a result.
We'll go back to Neil.
Yes, I just wanted to ask you about Kobe Franklin. He seemed to stand out last night. I don't know how much of a measuring stick that was for you, but just your thoughts about his performance last night. It seemed like every time he had the ball on his foot, something was going to happen.
Yeah, it was a very committed performance last night from Kobe. I mean, he was chasing a record. I had to single him out, as one of the players that were absolutely deeply committed to trying to break a record last night. And, his numbers, he broke a record in the numbers he covered. Actually, he got over 13 kilometres. The sports scientist, right at the end of the game, was concerned about him picking up an injury because he literally started to break some key physical metrics that no one had seen before. So, I mean, it just showed how dialed in he was. But you're starting to see again the clarity that he has as a wing back. I think that position suits him really well. We have an individual coach, Alex Dodson, a wing back coach that's been investing time, and Kobe is that guy that every single training session he's doing the extra. Probably the most committed pro I've seen in my time at TFC in terms of wanting to improve himself. So, if you put the work in, you get the rewards, and I think the fans got the rewards watching a young, homegrown player, really excel last night.
Thank you.
We'll go back to John next.
Thanks, Nick. John, just wanted to get your sort of evaluation of the performance from Kosi Thompson in the back three last night.
Yeah, I thought it was a solid performance from Kosi. I mean, we asked the lads to play on a high line, and we weren't going to be providing much cover to each centre-back. We asked them to match up everywhere on the pitch, so that was going to be 1v1 on a high line, and we trusted that our quality would be able to manage that. So I thought the whole back three, they were brave last night and were put in some uncomfortable situations, Kosi being one of them, and I thought he handled it well. I thought his ability on the ball is what separates him maybe from other centre-backs that I'm assessing and evaluating in those positions, and I think we encouraged him last night to show his repertoire. He had a few good diags, and then his ability to join and see passes in that part of the field that a midfielder's passes is what excites us about maybe his progression in the medium term in that role. So, long story short, I thought he did well last night. I mean, everything's calibrated to the opponent and the level of the opponent, but I thought he was really positive in the game.
We'll head back to James.
Thanks again, Nick. John Mabika was in the middle of the back three last night. I think we all expected to see Kevin Long there. How much of that was getting him some reps and that opportunity to build some depth in that position?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's his best position. For him, Kevin Long's come in with the experience he's had in the Championship at clubs like Birmingham, Burnley, etc. And, Longy's bringing that level of experience to, players around him like young Nixon Gomez. And I think with Emma, he had a decent season with TFC, particularly the front end of the season. And now we're asking him to, play on a high line. We're asking him to shepherd a back three, but also to bring his attacking competency. And it's really important, what you do with the ball in a back three. You have to be able to build attacks effectively. We really do rely on our centre-backs to dictate the rhythm of our attacking players. So I thought Emma did a good job of all of that last night. Again, you have to calibrate to the opponent, but that was a strong performance from Emma, and every time we've asked him to come into games, he's been solid this season. So he's building, and we have a lot of games coming up this month, and we will have to rotate the squad, and it will be a real team effort to get us through May. He'll be part of that.
We'll head back to John next.
Thanks, Nick. John, just wondering if there's any sort of new injury concerns coming out of the game yesterday. I appreciate it's still a little bit early. Maybe you can't tell. But
No, we're clean, John. We came out clean, so that's good news. DeAndre Kerr is the only questionable. He's just going through some sideline work this week. We're hoping to integrate him into training tomorrow, but he'd be the only questionable one outside of the longer term or medium term injury list of Lorenzo Ricci, Shane O'Neill.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Thanks.
And we'll go to James Grossi for our final question here.
Two last ones, if I can, John. Andre Dimitriou, 17-year-old, made his debut. He's only made one appearance for TFC2, I believe. Just what have you sort of seen from the young man?
Yeah, I mean, I was able to work with the 17s, the 19s, quite a lot through November, December, and then again into January, February. We've been conducting a lot of sessions with those players because I really wanted to get a feel for anyone in that pipeline that were close to touching the first team, to see if anyone had the sort of qualities we'd be looking for in the various profiles. And he stood out. I think he's, as a young man, he's got good size, and I think that's important. So physically, he's quite mature. He has a box-to-box engine, which, you know, is building. But I've been really impressed with his technical competency, you know, playing in the top or the bottom of the box in a 3-4-3. You know, he has qualities there. I think certainly his position that I look at him in is in that centre midfield role, playing in a 2 or in a 3. So last night we had him in more of an attacking mid role, which is probably not his biggest strength, but I thought he handled himself really well last night. He's very clean. He seems to glide on the pitch. And I thought if that's your debut, first time playing in front of a big crowd, he acquitted himself really well. So, you know, he had a good pre-season with us, and I've just been looking for a moment where we could give him an opportunity to express himself on a bigger stage, and for us to learn a little bit more about how he handled it. And I thought he handled it well.
Yeah, one to watch for sure. And last one for me, if my calculations are correct, I think this is the last match that falls into that Phase 3 window that you set up. If Phase 1 was about the physical prep in Florida and Phase 2 was about the tactical in California, what has Phase 3 been about, and what does Phase 4 look like, and maybe how many phases you got lined up for this year?
Yeah, well, Phase 3 was start strong, and that was to be within the touching distance of the top 4. That was our mission from a points perspective, and, you know, start strong. It ended up becoming adapt and overcome very quickly with the way things sort of turned out, with, you know, feeling like you were walking into the new season with a lot of cohesion with your core group, and you knew you would build more through the first few games. But I think the realities of just you've got to adapt, and the best laid plans are going to be ripped up pretty quickly. So you just got to adapt to what's happening. So, you know, the key was to stay within touching distance of the top 4. The overachievement for us was to land in the top 4. So this weekend's an important game for us. With a win, it puts us very close to the overachievement goal, and, you know, with a result, it puts us, you know, right where I think the team was expecting to be and where we wanted to be in our start strong phase.